Welcome to Cybersecurity Awareness TV, episode number 421, recorded February 18th, 2023. My name is Mac Jackson Jr. I am your cybersecurity consultant and researcher. If this is the first time you have seen our show, I discuss cybersecurity awareness, news, interviews, and tips that you could use to protect yourself from the fastest growing crimes of the 21st century. I would like to thank all of our viewers who have been part of our show over the years here on Cybersecurity TV. Awareness TV, help bring this message to the public. Our listeners from around the world have been very helpful and influential in making sure that you have information that can protect you from these types of cyber crimes. If you'd like to find out more information about Cybersecurity Awareness TV and my business and my show, you can find me online at macjacksonjr.com, macjacksonjr.com, or you can go to my business website, and that's vandersoncybergroup.com. Remember, folks, to share, like, and subscribe to all of our social media connections. And we're also proud to be a part of the WWDBTV family here as well. Remember, folks, you can also find us on Patreon at patreon.com/MacJacksonJr. In today's episode, we're going to discuss cybersecurity news, the evolving landscape of cybersecurity from around the world, things that you should be very, very cautious of and protect yourself from these types of cyber crimes. In our second episode, we talk of the FBI warnings to consumers with consumer alerts. In our third segment, as we do every week, we discuss business productivity and things you can do to improve your business, be more productive and secure. In our first segment, folks, cybersecurity, the evolving landscape of cyber crimes from around the world. In today's digital world, folks, data breaches have become more and more too common, right? Everyday occurrence. In the past few years, cybercrimes are getting more sophisticated. These hackers are coming after businesses of all sizes and looking to exploit their personal identifiable information. The evolving landscape of data breaches has concerns from everyone around the world and all governments. Everybody's interested and want to protect themselves from these types of cybercrimes, but what can we do? Well, there's a lot of things that we can do, folks. Here on Cybersecurity Awareness TV, we aim to educate businesses and individuals about the latest in cybersecurity news that involves the most sophisticated data breaches and how you protect yourselves from them. The reality, folks, data breaches are here to stay, but we can do our part to mitigate these type of damages that can happen from these types of cyber attacks. Folks, back in 2021, just a few years ago, there were some major cyber attacks that affected our national security, including the solar wind database that happened, as well as the Colonial Pipeline that shut down the gas pipeline on the east coast of our country. To nowadays, just last week, we had cyber attacks that affected the telecommunication industry, as far as Verizon, T-Mobile, and others been affected by this type of cyber attack. And recently now, Pepsi-Cola, folks. If these large companies can be hit by cyber attacks, imagine what can happen to your small business, right? Those are the ones you hardly ever hear in the news. The cost of these data breaches, folks, have been astronomical, affecting businesses. It can cause irreversible harm to businesses and their reputation, and of course lead to financial losses and business reputations as well. For this reason, folks, we here at Cybersecurity Awareness TV wanting to make sure that you have the latest on what's going on in these types of cyber attacks. So what happens, folks? Why does the hackers look to get your information? Because your information, your data is currency. It's the new currency, folks, of the 21st century. Hackers look for this information that they can sell in the dark net. The hacktivists, scammers, cyber criminals, and alike will use techniques and tools to shut down your business, steal the data, and sell it to other bad guys. Cyber criminals have a variety of methods to use to get your personal data and personal information, and things like phishing, malware, ransomware, and social engineering. Most of these methods, such as phishing that cyber criminals use, are disguised within the emails and also using phone calls, disguise themselves as someone you think you can trust online on the phone call. But folks, there is a huge cyber attack that happened a few weeks ago. You may have noticed on the news, right, in the media, there was this big thing happening with a balloon. That's right. We had a balloon floating over our country here a couple weeks ago, and we weren't sure what the heck it was, and we allowed it to float all the way from the West Coast over to the East Coast, folks, and then finally it was shot down. But then it happened again, a second time, over Michigan, and then again over Alaska. But again, folks, the second and third time this happened, our country, our military shot it down. And when we focus so much concentration on these balloons, where did it come from? Did it come from China? Did it come from some other university that's doing a test or something in the atmosphere? Or was it a spy satellite, a spy balloon? The investigation is still ongoing to determine what the cause of this was. But folks, as this was going on, things are pointing towards one of our adversaries, and that's China, or certain elements within the Chinese country, right, that could have caused this. There's a story I'd like you guys to take a look at that talks about this in regards of these types of cyber attacks. And it's related to cyber as well, folks, because from the balloon, there's other things that the Chinese government may be connected with as well. Check out the story we have from MSNBC News.
2 weeks ago, the same day that we learned that a Chinese spy balloon had been spotted in the sky above Montana, that very same day, the largest hospital system in Northwest Florida, Tallahassee Memorial Healthcare, was brought to a near screeching halt by a much less visible security threat, a cyber attack. The entire hospital system had to effectively ditch the computers and work on pen and paper. They had to divert most emergency medical patients to other hospitals and cancel all non-emergency surgeries. It wasn't until today that Tallahassee Memorial was able to start transitioning some of their hospital system back online and off paper. They are still diverting some emergency medical patients as of today. Now, I don't make this comparison to blame China for the cyber attack in Tallahassee, Florida. It was most likely the work of criminals, and it happens a lot. The cybersecurity firm Emisoft counted 290 hospitals hit by ransomware attacks last year alone. I also don't mean to diminish concern about China's spy balloon program as a security threat, because we really don't know how damaging that could end up being. But we do know exactly how much of a security threat cyber attacks are to this country. In 2014, there was the hack of the federal government's Office of Personnel Management, where hackers stole information on more than 22 million government workers, their families, and everyone who had undergone government background checks, including the family of yours truly. In 2015, there was the hack of the healthcare company Anthem that exposed the personal data of nearly 80 million people. And in 2017, there was the Equifax breach, which exposed private data like Social Security numbers for more than 140 million Americans. And if memory serves, that included me. The U.S. has explicitly blamed China for all of those attacks. Joining us now is Nicole Perlroth. She was a New York Times cybersecurity reporter for a decade and is now an advisor for Biden's Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency, CISA. Her book, This Is How They Tell Me the World Ends. I'm glad they told you and not me. The Cyber Weapons Arms Race comes out in paperback a week from today. And she has been loud and proud about how she believes the general public's reaction to the Chinese spy balloon is, well, we say overinflated. Pun intended. Nicole, thank you for being here tonight.
Thank you so much for having me. Happy Valentine's Day.
Happy Valentine's Day. What a loving topic to talk about. The spy balloon has captured everyone's imagination, I think, because it's just a crazy thing, right? Like these UFOs flying over the country. It is weird to me that we do not pay nearly the same heed to attacks that actually affect almost every single person in this country. How and why do we change that? How do we change that narrative, and why do you think that is?
I think it has been an incredibly frustrating news cycle for those of us who've been covering Chinese cyber espionage and sabotage for the last 10 years. You know, I always thought, what is it going to take to get the American public and policymakers to wake up? If we could see a bomb go off at every company that has been breached, maybe that would do it. And now I think maybe it's a balloon over every company
Yes.
that has been compromised and over every American. Because when I first started covering this at the New York Times, it was IP theft. I mean, there's been more than 1,000 American companies have been breached since 2018 by China for IP theft.
Wow.
Chris Wray said China has taken more business data and personal data than any other nation-state actor combined. Keith Alexander, former director of the NSA, said this is the greatest transfer of wealth in human history.
Wow. I mean, the balloon, people don't know exactly what was being captured by the balloon tech. Some people think it may have been views of the military installations across the country. It's unclear as yet. Why, when you talk about the value of personal data, to just be a dummy about it, what is so valuable in it? Why is it the largest transfer of wealth?
So originally, I think it was IP theft. This was China trying to catch up. They were sick of being the world's manufacturer. The shortest way to catch up is steal the IP, shortcut the R&D process, hand that IP over to their state-owned enterprises and make hay. Then we started seeing these attacks of Equifax, Anthem, the Office of Personnel Management, and Marriott, actually. And I think what they were doing, what cybersecurity experts have said for a long time, is they've been building out a database of Americans' personal information, particularly government workers who stay at Marriott and who applied for a security clearance at OPM, to see where Chinese citizens are traveling and staying at the same time as potential American government workers, to build out a counterintelligence database of potential Chinese American spies. So that was the thinking originally. Now I think it's shifted to how much are they taking here? Because they've breached essentially data on every American. And of course, we can talk about TikTok and what kind of threat that poses to what people are now calling psychosecurity down the line. But essentially, we've seen them take the IP, we've seen them take the personal data. More than a year ago, the US government declassified a report that a lot of Chinese hacks of our pipeline networks were not IP theft. This was China actually trying to get a foothold into our pipeline systems for the event that they might need to sabotage those systems one day. So at a certain point, we have to ask ourselves, what haven't they taken?
Yeah. And what about, China is obviously an aggressive actor when it comes to these attacks, but what about, for example, Russia? We know that they have a very aggressive posture in, say, Ukraine, and they are notorious in terms of their cyber threats and their cyber teams. What are they doing independent of the Chinese?
So I think the best explanation for the difference between the cyber threat from China and the cyber threat from Russia came from Paul Nakasone, the current director of the NSA, who said, Russia is the hurricane, China is climate change. Imminently.
Neither of those things are good.
Neither of those things are good, no. The thing is, Russia has been pushing the envelope on sabotage, particularly in Ukraine. A couple of years ago, we saw them shut the power down in Ukraine, not once, but twice. They inflicted an attack called the NotPetya attack, horrible name, but essentially it was an attack on most government agencies in Ukraine, but also their railway systems, their postal network. It didn't just hit every business in Ukraine, it hit every business that had even a single employee working remotely from Ukraine. So it hit Merck, it hit Maersk, it hit Mondelez. It paralyzed Merck's vaccine production lines that year. This was pre-COVID. You can imagine how bad it would have been during COVID. So they've been very aggressive about acts of cyber sabotage. Now, in Ukraine, the cyber attacks have not been able to compete with the sort of horrific images we've seen on the ground. But it's not something to ignore.
Yeah.
We've seen them plant malware in Ukrainian substations. It was eradicated, but they tried to take out the power. Just today, there was a report in Politico about a tool they call Pipe Dream that was discovered in development. No one has formally attributed it to Russia, but all signs point that way. That looks to be the sort of Swiss Army knife of critical infrastructure hacking tools. And it looks like it was designed to attack power grids and pipeline networks. And it could sabotage these networks. Now, they've been fairly restrained with targeting these attacks at the West. I think, my personal theory is that despite Putin's threats of nuclear threats and all the nuclear bluster, I think it's much more likely that if he were to retaliate for Western support of Ukraine, it would be via cyber attacks.
Nicole Perlroth with the good news on Valentine's Day. They know invaluable and very important to keep in context. Thank you for your time tonight.
Thank you so much.
Happy Valentine's Day.
Happy Valentine's.
Pretty amazing, folks. So you can see that allegations are still focusing on China for a lot of these cyber attacks, especially the one regarding the healthcare industry, folks. The healthcare industry has been barraged by these types of cyber attacks using ransomware. And folks, hackers and fraudsters are looking to go towards healthcare industry because of the severity and the harm that it can that they can extract onto patients. The healthcare industry have paid these types of fraudsters and criminals because there's patients' lives at stake. Whereas a business can say they don't pay the ransom and move forward to their backups, right? But now these hackers are doing another technique. They're telling the companies if they don't pay the money, they will take their data and sell it, expose them to the world with other hackers, right? So they're trying to use extortion as well as other blackmail techniques. These attacks, folks, are something we definitely need to keep our eyes open and stay alert and be aware of. The next story I'll tell you of other large corporations just in the few months that we've started right now in 2023. Companies within a telecom industry such as AT&T, T-Mobile, and Verizon. Major cyber attack. That's all of our ISPs for our phones, right? Major cyber attacks. Now they're claiming that the hackers weren't able to get any personal identifiable information, information with numbers on it that can personally uniquely identify an individual. However, they were able to get names and addresses. But this is something we really need to stay alert and concerned with. I have a story for you that I'd like you to take a look at from the AI version of the cyber world, from a AI reporter called AI Joe from Cyber News. Check this out.
Hi, I am Joe, your AI-generated newscaster. Threat actors have targeted several U.S. telecommunications companies extensively since January, and data of more than 74 million consumers has been leaked. The year started with the attack by the ransomware group CL0P on CGM, a U.S. software-as-a-service provider that helps telecommunications companies participate in the Affordable Connectivity Program. Then hackers leaked screenshots of ID submitted by disadvantaged applicants to the program on January 5th. The very next day, another threat actor, Intel Broker, claimed to have found a third-party vendor's insecure cloud storage containing 37 million AT&T client records. But there were even more hits on T-Mobile, Verizon, and US Cellular. Altogether, over 74 million clients' data was leaked. According to the researchers, most breaches can be attributed to third-party vendors, third-party breaches through vendors. Companies' post-breach response typically includes contracting auditors and information security companies and offering short-term credit monitoring to protect against fraud. However, these are reactive measures. Companies should maintain adequate policies and procedures to protect against threats proactively. In response to the breaches in the telecommunications sector, the Federal Communications Commission issued a statement pushing for a change in current breach notification guidelines, proposing the removal of the compulsory 7-day waiting period before customers are notified of breaches. That's it for today's cyber news. If you like to see our coverage of the previous T-Mobile and US Cellular breaches, you can find these videos here. Check out what happened in cybersecurity last week.
Amazing, folks. As we continue our investigation of stories from around the world, here again in the U.S., there's the other cyber attack that continues with a large company called Pepsi-Cola Corporation. They had a major cyber attack. But the problem, folks, is when the attack happened, Pepsi-Cola wasn't aware of the attacks for months, right? Because like we've always said on this show and other cybersecurity researchers from around the world have stated, when a hacker attacks a network system, they can be involved in the company's operations invisibly, as we called ghost in a machine, for years before the organization finds them. But when Pepsi-Cola found out about it, they immediately had to notify the public on this type of event, whereas the public could then make decisions of how they can protect themselves or their data. As our story continues here, AI Joe continues this story for us, here from Cyber News.
Hi, I'm Joe, your AI-generated newscaster, back with major news. Pepsi Bottling Ventures, America's largest manufacturer and distributor of Pepsi-Cola beverages, said that its network was breached by threat actors. Pepsi has sent notices to all affected consumers, claiming that the breach was executed by deploying info-stealing malware around December 23, 2022. However, Pepsi was not aware of the criminal activity until almost 3 weeks later, January 10, 2023. It's unknown who accessed the internal IT systems of the corporation, but they have managed to install malware and extract information belonging to the employees and clients of the company. Not just any information either. First and last names, home and email addresses, financial account data, passwords, PIN codes, driver's license numbers, and more. All this information was stolen by the threat actor. Pepsi claims to have taken measures against identity theft or other fraud. The victims of the theft will be provided with a year's worth of free identity monitoring services from Kroll, a risk mitigation and response provider. Still, the company urges all affected parties to change their usernames, passwords, and as much of other confidential information that could have become available for threat actors. However, the threat obviously remains, as the stolen data can still be used in cyber attacks at any time. If customers suffer financial losses as a result of the breach, Pepsi might also face legal action. The breach highlights the need for companies to be proactive in protecting their sensitive information and safeguarding against cyber threats. The stolen data may be sold on dark web forums and used for cyber crimes such as identity theft, doxing, phishing, and other types of social engineering. I can only hope that no further harm befall the affected clients. And if you are interested, subscribe to the channel, since I will be sure to cover any updates for this story. Or you can watch videos on other big breaches of famous companies right here. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you soon.
Folks, as we always stated on this show, cyber criminals are always looking for vulnerabilities, ways to get your information and get your data. Remember, folks, we must stay proactive in everything we do when it comes to our personal identifiable information. You can find out more on stories like the ones you've heard on this segment and from our show by going to my website and checking out my blog called Professor Mac's Blog. You can check out this story and an upcoming article that I've written on nonprofits. That's right, folks. Nonprofits, right? Donations. Companies who take donations as supporters. Hackers are looking for them like low-hanging fruit from a orange field, folks. So low-hanging fruit. They're looking for these nonprofits so they can steal money from them and convince their donors to transfer money to another fictitious organization in the underground. It's something that all organizations should have in their toolbox, is proper techniques and procedures to defend themselves from these types of attacks. You can find out more by going and reading more on my blog. Folks, here at Cybersecurity Awareness TV, we always say hashtag stay cyber alert. We'll be back after these messages.
Hey everybody, I am Aaron Phillips. You are?
I'm Governor Val Brown Klingelhofer.
And we host what kind of show?
We host the most fabulous show on this network you've ever seen. It's all about Kiwanis and what's going on in our different cities.
And Kiwanis Connects is the title, and you can watch us every Friday morning, 9 to 10 a.m. Pacific time, right on Facebook or WWDBTV. Say goodbye.
Bye, everybody. Aloha.
Hello folks, this is Mac Jackson Jr. from Vanderson Cyber Group. The problem with businesses today is that they are affected by cyber attacks from around the world, but companies are not sure of what to do. Normally, they are reactive instead of proactive. But folks, cyber attacks can affect your bottom line, and it will affect you financially, legally, and your business reputation. Here at Vanderson Cyber Group, we can help you develop a policy by training your employees on what to do if they are involved in a cyber attack, and how to mitigate it and fight against it. Folks, we call it here hashtag Stay Cyber Woke. And that's Vanderson Cyber Group here in Las Vegas and around the world. You can reach me, folks, at VandersonCyberGroup.com or my website, MacJacksonJr.com as well. Here locally, 702-868-0808. Give us a call today, folks. We must fight back. Hi, folks. Welcome back to Cybersecurity Awareness TV. I'm your host, Mac Jackson Jr. In this segment, we're talking about FBI warnings, consumer scams. Folks, this week has been the week of Valentine's Day, right? Yes, Valentine's Day, where we have Decepticons, the term I've given them, Decepticons, looking for victims to exploit and to steal their information and money from, folks. The FBI warns people to make sure that when you're looking at these websites or you're talking to someone online, definitely vet them and make sure they are who they say they are. Because these fraudsters and Decepticons will try to steal your information, folks. Looking for love in all the wrong places. Absolutely. Sometimes you can find love online. Other times you will find Decepticons out there ready to steal from you. I have a story to report for you from San Francisco's KPIX CBS News.
With Valentine's Day tomorrow, the FBI is sounding the alarm about romance scams, and they don't just happen online. Just last week, in fact, Berkeley police arrested 4 people accused of using a dating app to meet up with a UC Berkeley student in person and rob him at gunpoint in his apartment. Our Mary Lee spoke to the FBI and a dating coach about those red flags for us all to watch out for.
Love is in the air with Valentine's Day, but it's also a time when dating and romance scammers are looking for their next victim.
I create a complete strategy for my clients, to go from being super confused about dating to going on awesome dates and finding really the love of their life.
Julia Malakiman is Silicon Valley's dating coach. She teaches her clients how to master the art of dating. Her clients are looking for love, but also looking to not get scammed.
Well, one of my clients, before he started working with me, had a date set up with a woman who did not look like her pictures at all. She didn't have a job, even though she said she did. She didn't have a car, although she said she did. And so my client was just completely dumbfounded when he went to the date. Obviously questioning her intentions, and it just made for a really bad experience.
In 2022, complaints filed with the FBI's Internet Crime Complaint Center showed that close to 450 victims in the Bay Area lost more than $45 million to romance scams.
She said she wanted me to text her, so I started texting her.
With the highest victim age group, 60 years and older.
So I went to my bank account and it said I was $5,780 in a day.
The scammer tries to build rapport with the victims, to develop a relationship. And so a scammer in a matter of weeks or a matter of months will go from being a complete stranger to a trusted insider, a trusted confidant, so much so that the victims will send the scammers fairly large sums of money, personal property, even personal financial information.
Julia wants her clients to fall in love while also staying safe. She tells her clients to always call, or better yet, video call before their first date, to always meet in public, to share their location with a friend or family member, and of course, to never give personal and financial information to anyone.
Because I think a lot of women and men are quite naive, right? I think it comes again from that, oh my gosh, someone wants to go on a date with me. Let me just go out with whoever. And they're not really filtering through what are the potential risks here.
If you are the victim of a romance scam or know somebody who is, the FBI says to definitely report it, to also contact your bank immediately, so hopefully they can lock down your finances.
Mary, great advice. And video chat, see what that person looks like. The FBI says a big red flag to watch out for, a sense of urgency. The scammer will need money fast, and only the victim can help. They may even send a copy of their ID to prove that they're legit. They're not.
Folks, as you can see from these stories, dating apps are on the rise, and a lot of marriages and relationships can be fostered from online dating. But folks, you have to be careful and cautious of the people you meet and to avoid these Decepticons. Folks, they come at all ages. They try to extort men and women of all ages as well, folks. The FBI warns of these scams and to be very, very careful of them. I have another follow-up story I'd like to talk to you about, and that comes from CBS News. Here we go.
The FBI says if you're looking for love online, beware. Romance scams across the country are on the rise.
These people are professionals. They're very good at what they do. They practice and they have scripts that they use on their victims.
Agents say scammers make a connection with someone on social media and after gaining their trust over weeks and months, ask them to send money for an investment. Then they disappear. The bad actors will sometimes ask for cryptocurrency because it's largely untraceable, or ask you to send money internationally.
We have relationships through our legal attaches with overseas law enforcement, so we can recover records that help us make our cases, and in some cases we can actually recover funds.
In the FBI's San Francisco region, however, some good news: fewer people are falling victim than before. In 2021 in the Bay Area, the number of victims was 720. Last year, there were 490 victims. 2 years ago, victims lost $64 million. In 2022, it was $46 million.
Now, granted, that's a fairly significant decline, but it's a very high number nevertheless.
Agents aren't sure why it's going down. Perhaps people emerging from lockdowns are looking for love in safer places, or they're catching on to the scam. Across the Bay, Santa Clara had the most victims with 132, but Alameda County victims lost the most money, $9.6 million. And the most targeted group was people over 60.
Specifically older women. It's roughly a 2-to-1 ratio of female victims to male victims. However, I do want to state that we do see victims in every age group and in every demographic group.
The FBI says if you think it's happening to you, contact your bank to let them know you're a victim of fraud and file a report through the Internet Crime Complaint Center, that's ic3.gov, and on the FBI website. Ian Cole, NBC Bay Area News.
Folks, with online dating and the scams that affects Valentine's Day this week and lovers online, there's also other online scams that extorts people as well. And it's also including sex texting. These scammers use pictures of victims and try to blackmail them into providing money, or they will expose them with these fraudulent lies, using even deep fakes, either videos and or photos, folks. These hackers and Decepticons are out there, and we must bring them to justice, folks. If you have any information that you believe that there's been a Decepticon trying to get your information or someone you know and your loved ones, please definitely contact your local police or the FBI, folks. We must do what we can to protect ourselves from these types of fraudsters and predators that are after our children as well. As a cybersecurity consultant, we believe that businesses can do more in protecting our society from these types of attacks. And the best way, folks, is through education and letting other people know from things that you've heard on this show and to tell other people. We all must do our part. As we say always, folks, hashtag stay cyber alert. We'll be back, folks, after these messages.
Hi, I'm Judy Morio. I invite you to watch my show, What's Your Story with Judy Morio on WWDBTV, where I interview celebrities, doctors, authors, professional speakers, and just plain folks like you and me. So watch my show and also watch some of the other great shows that we have here on WWDBTV, and you can also find us on Roku.
Hi everybody, Aaron Phillips here, inviting you to join me every Saturday from 12 to 1 p.m. right here on Worldwide Digital Broadcasting TV on my show, Aaron's Hour with Aaron Phillips. I bring to you the movers and shakers of Las Vegas and really all around the world. It's also fun, entertaining, silly, goofy, informative, everything you'd want to be entertained by on a Saturday, except no politics, no religion. As I said, it's designed to be a fun show. Remember, that's every Saturday from 12 to 1 p.m. Pacific, right here, Aaron's Hour, Worldwide Digital Broadcasting TV.
Welcome back, folks, to Cybersecurity Awareness TV. I'm your host, Mac Jackson Jr. In this segment, we're talking about business tips to improve productivity and security. So, folks, in this episode today, we talked about ways that you can protect yourself and your business from these types of cybercrimes and data breaches, things that you should be cautious of. Well, in the world of cybersecurity, I want to talk to you again, and we do this every week, about things that you can do to protect yourselves. As we've always stated every week, protect yourself by having a unique password. Having a unique password, folks, online is one of the first layers of defense you can do to protect your data and your information. But folks, it gets even deeper. Do not use a password, use a passphrase. Use a passphrase, folks, something that is longer, more than 18 or so characters, upper and lowercase with a special character. That may sound very complicated, but it's pretty simple. Just think of an English sentence, something that you and your family would understand, and it's personal to you. This would make it harder for hackers, or as we call it, Decepticons, to steal your information, your data. That's the first line of defense. Secondly, make sure you change this passphrase statement at least twice a year. You can even do it every quarter. Having a rotation of your password or your passphrase, again, makes it harder for the hackers to find you. And then the second one, use a password management system, something that can store and encrypt all of your passwords in an area of software that's available to you when you need them. And you don't have to remember all of the sites that you visit. As time is going on and as more and more devices are connected to our infrastructure from home or office, we're going to have a lot more passphrases to track, folks. And you should not, please do not write these down on a piece of paper. Because again, folks, if you write passwords down on a piece of paper, you have literally become your own Federal Reserve Bank. You created currency from nothing at all. These are just a few things you can do, folks. The others is that you need to contact my company, Vanderson Cyber Group. We can walk you through how to set up policies and procedures within your organization, train your employees on the proper ways to defend your business from these types of cyber attacks. We can help you mitigate some of the disastrous results that you could have without any policies at all. And for your home operations, absolutely. Individuals, we can talk to them as well. You can find information by going to my website at VandersonCyberGroup.com. That's VandersonCyberGroup.com, or my website, MacJacksonJr.com. Folks, you'd find information out there about how to protect yourself from these types of cybercrimes, and we're available to you. Also, you can send me email as well if you have questions regarding cybersecurity. Do that as well, folks. Again, folks, thank you for joining us this week on Cybersecurity Awareness TV. We will see you next week. Have a good one.